Hello and welcome to the Flipping and Wholesaling Houses in New York show. I am Michael Pinter, where I teach you how to start flipping or wholesaling houses in New York or other places. And if you're already doing it, how to grow your business. So question I got, another by request, is what are the specific, I want to get this right. Oh crap, I missed it. What are the specific closing costs and amounts in New York? So it obviously depends on, I should be looking at the camera, right? It obviously depends on if you're buying or you're selling, and it depends on if there's a loan involved or if there isn't. So let's go through the basic closing costs first of buying and then of selling. So when you buy a property, you have to get title insurance on it. Goes without saying. Title insurance in New York is very expensive. So it really depends on the loan amount. On the purchase price. That's how the insurance is done, but it's not uncommon for there to be $2,000 to $3,000 just in title insurance costs. Now, just to explain what title insurance is, that ensures that you will have first lien on the property. That ensures that you will own the property. So Native American's not going to show up and say, this is my grandfather's property. And if they do and they win, title insurance will eventually pay you back for whatever that is. There are also two policies. There's a loan policy, so you're going to pay title insurance on how much you borrow. If you borrow, let's say I buy something for $400,000 and I borrow $300,000, there'll be a loan policy for $300,000, and then I have an option of taking an owner's policy for the other $100,000. So your biggest costs are going to be title costs. You're going to have title insurance costs, and then you have a lot of search fees. This is really something that only happens in New York. You have something called departmentals, which means that they have to run a separate tax search with whoever the taxing authority is. They have to run a separate housing and building search. They have to run a bankruptcy search. All those things can add up. It could be almost another $1,000 in costs. So I'd say $3,000 to $4,000 in title costs. Also depends where in New York you are. Obviously, as you get closer to New York City, it's more expensive. Then you're going to have a legal fee. You need to have an attorney represent you. So that's going to be somewhere between $500 and $3,000. I know it's a big range, but that's the truth. So let's just put in the middle, say $1,500. So now you're already $4,500 to $5,500. And then any taxes that are due, any property taxes that are due in the next 90 days, the title company will probably make you pay that. So that could be a few $1,000s. In some parts of Suffolk, they pay once a year. I'd pay $11,000 more. I'd pay $14,000 at a closing just for the taxes. So that is a big thing. You have to worry about that. Most of the fees are title related. All those taxes are going to get paid to the title company who is going to pay the taxes. Then you are going to have your attorney fee, as I said. What else? And then now, if you take a loan, you're going to have a lot more fees, right? You're going to have any fees that the lender is charging you. So if they're charging you any points, I'll explain what a point is. A point is 1% of the loan amount. So if I'm borrowing $300,000 and I'm paying 2 points to a hard money lender, which is pretty common, it's going to be $6,000 additional fees. Any lender fees, so they sometimes charge underwriting fees. There's a lot of bullshit fees that they charge. That could be thousands of dollars additionally. Plus, you have to pay interim interest when you take a loan. So if you close in the middle of the month, you're going to pay usually 15 days interest most of the time. If you close in the beginning of the month, you're going to have more interest. Because at the end of the month, you'll have less interest usually, right? You pay interest to get you paid up. Because usually you pay in arrears on a loan. And that means that you're paying it after. They get their money first. So they'll take the first month from, you're going to pay whatever. I don't want to get too much into the weeds on the loan. But those are some of the fees. So I figure in general when I buy something, it's going to be about $10,000 in closing costs. If I am taking a loan, also the recording fees. If you're recording the loan documents, recording fees in my county and county are crazy. I could pay thousands of dollars just in recording fees. So understand that's a pain, right? That's a problem, right? You don't pay that much in recording fees when you close. You're going to pay to record the deed. And if there's a mortgage, you're going to pay to record the mortgage. And sometimes there are other documents that your lender might require. You're going to pay for each of those with the local county clerk, and your title company is going to take it out on you right at the closing. So I figure about $10,000 when I close on a property without a loan. If there is a loan, then I figure 15, depending on how many points there are and how big the loan is. Again, the higher your purchase price is, the more your closing costs are going to be, right? And that is for residential. For commercial, fees are much higher, much. I'm not even getting into commercial fees, which is why there's very little demand for small commercial loans. I was in the mortgage business for many years. People would call me with a $400,000 commercial loan. The problem is they have to pay $40,000 in closing costs. That's 10% of the amount they're borrowing. It didn't make sense, right? So that's why commercial mortgages, they want bigger loans, and because the borrowers, when they see how closing costs, they usually walk away. It's cost prohibitive. Now, let's talk about when you sell a property. When you sell a property, if there is a realtor, that's probably going to be your biggest part of it all. The realtor is going to take, depending on what you negotiate with the realtor. When I list with people, it's usually 2 or 3%, but when you list with a lot of realtor states, it's going to be 4, 5, or 6%. So that's a huge amount, right? If you're selling a property for $500,000 and you have $5,000, 5% realty fees, that's $25,000 right there. Now, what else are you going to pay? You're going to pay any taxes that are due. So in general, I don't usually pay my taxes when I own a property because I own it short term. So taxes do accrue. Even if I paid that first tax, like we discussed, when you close 90 days, if I own something for 9 months, I'm going to owe 6 months of taxes. That can be significant, right? I bought properties worth $20,000 in annual taxes. That means I may have to pay $10,000 in taxes in arrears. Plus, there'll be some penalties and some interest, but usually they're not terrible if you do it, within a year. So you're going to pay taxes, you're going to pay realty fees, and you're going to pay legal fee again, right? So whatever your attorney is going to charge you, you're going to have to pay that too, and you get the joy of paying transfer tax, which is $4 per thousand. So for every 100,000, it's $400. If you're selling something for $500,000, it's going to be $2,000. That's transfer tax to New York State. You can't get away from that. What other fees might you have? And then you're going to pay also title fees for recording. So you're going to have to pay to record a mortgage satisfaction, right? If you had a mortgage on a property, now they have to satisfy. You got to pay for that. Sometimes if there's a correction deed or something like that, you may have to pay more. So I figure in general, it really depends. I represent myself when I sell something, but I figure $15,000 to $20,000 most of the time when I sell something on closing costs. They're significant. They're really large. Like if you talk to people in other states, you'll have $500-600 in closing costs total, maybe $900,000 if something's crazy. So when we talk about double closing, in some places where you double close here, it could cost a fortune, right? I paid double closing costs. It was $8,000 in fees to double close. And you have to be very concerned about that, right? You have to be aware of it because a lot of people go into a deal and they say, "Oh, I'm going to buy something for $400,000. I could sell it for $450." That's a no-brainer. Even if I make $10,000, I'm happy. But you're probably going to lose money because if you're paying interest on a loan during that period of time, you're probably going to get your ass handed to you. So it's very common for me to pay $25,000 to $30,000 in closing costs before I pay interest to a lender, interest and points to a lender. It's very common for me to pay $50,000 or $60,000 just to buy something and sell it, even if I sell it right away. So that's unfortunately one of the bad parts of New York is how much the closing costs are here, and the fact that it's almost impossible to double close without being cost prohibitive. If you want to double close, it better be a good reason. Another thing about double closing, just to get completely off topic, is that the reason why a lot of people double close in other places is that they're afraid that either the seller's going to walk or the buyer's going to walk. The beauty of New York is that nobody's walking because everybody's stuck in their contract. It's very hard to get into contract in New York, but it's even harder to get out of contract. So I tell the story a lot. I apologize if you heard it before, but I think one of my first wholesale deals was a really good deal, a grand slam, over $100,000 assignment fee, and the seller was pretty pissed off in general at the world. And I went to my attorney and I said, I think it was the first deal I signed. And I said, I'm afraid this guy's going to walk. Should I double close? He goes, listen, the guy can be upset, but he's still going to sell it to you. He can't sell it to anybody else, and he has to sell it to you. That's how contracts work in New York. That's one of the best parts of New York. You don't have to be afraid of somebody going around you because no one's going around you because the seller can't get out of the contract. If that seller would walk away, I could literally hit him with a time of the essence letter to close, and if he wouldn't close, I could put a list pendants on the property, which means he'll never sell it to anybody else. It's almost like a mortgage foreclosure, and then I could sue him for specific performance, which means I'll sue him for the entire purchase price, and I'll win. And because almost every seller is represented by an attorney, the attorney will tell him straight up, you don't have any options, you have to sell it to this guy. So that's really how things work in New York, the pros and the cons. But I wish I can get into more specific amounts. I wish, people said, oh, his closing cost 2%. I never figure that out. I just go through the math. There is a closing cost calculator from Madison Title that you can use. If you want to, just Google Madison Title closing cost calculator, but it doesn't give you all the fees. It just gives you title fees. But it's helpful. I used to use it when I was in the mortgage business. I think they still have it. So I hope this was helpful. If you're interested in all the ways I can help you, go to howtoflipnewyork.com. If you are interested in finding out more about one-on-one coaching I offer, go to coaching.howtoflipnewyork.com. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching on any media channel, please click the thumbs up. The likes really help my SEO, my search engine optimization, because all the media channels look at likes in their algorithm of who to show the videos to. And what else? Please keep the comments coming. I post 5 times a week. This came by request. I don't always know what to say. Your questions really, really help me. So you can ask any question. It doesn't have to be about the video you're watching. I try to get back to my questions, try to get back to my comments within a couple of days. And if it's something simple, I'll just reply with an answer. If it's something I've covered before, I'll send you links to a video or videos on it. And if something new, I will do a video on it. Thank you very, very much for watching.